Hi, revolutionaries! Welcome to this international, worldwide, unique event in the world of zero-emission mobility. Today, we are live from the headquarters of EVBox here in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, with a full interactive program. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We have participants from all around the globe. From down under, Australia, all the way up to Norway, from France to Italy, Iceland, El Salvador, Korea, Malaysia, Ethiopia, Mexico, Mauritius, China, the US, and many more other countries. Very, very welcome. It's going to be an exciting, full event with interaction with you, debate, and great ideas to move forward towards a zero-emission future. So stay tuned behind your laptop, desktop, iPad, iPhone for the coming 2.5 hours. We will start with a stunning keynote by André Borsberg, the first to fly around the world with a solar-powered only airplane. Then we will go to an electrifying debate about the future of mobility. 4 industry experts combined with your questions will spark the discussion led by my friend Angelica Berger-Sodian. Then you have to pick one of the 4 breakouts that will take place at the same time. We need your knowledge, brains, and creativity. You can either choose to visit the in-depth Q&A of André Borsberg, led by my friend Roger Atkins. You could witness the startup pitching competition, where you will see exciting startups with new initiatives in the world of sustainable mobility. Or you can visit our partners in the virtual marketplace. Last but not least, you can join me in the interactive brainstorm with your ideas and possibilities to make a zero-emission future happen. Now, I'm standing here all alone, so I wonder, Dr. Angelica Berger-Sodian, where are you hiding?
Hi, Dave. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm not really hiding away, but I'm joining you guys from Vienna, where I'm currently living. I would have loved to join you in Amsterdam, but as you know, with some of the restrictions that we are facing these days, it was unfortunately just not possible. But I'm all excited, and I'm here in Vienna today, more than happy to facilitate the electrifying debate, more than happy to join the startup competition. So I'm all yours and more than happy to be involved.
Now, Angelica, I heard rumors that you were going to the UK. What about that?
Yeah, it seems rumors are traveling quickly. That is actually true. And as my friend Roger made a joke just the other day, he said I'm doing reverse Brexit. Which is kind of funny because some other people are doing reverse mergers at the moment. So I decided, just for difference, to do reverse Brexit because, as you might know, I have lived in the UK for 3 years and I only relocated back to Austria a year ago. But now, I can't disclose too many details yet. But the truth is, I am up for something new, and I will also disclose details next week. But yes, I am on my way back to London.
Okay, next week. Now, what about China and the Year of the Tiger? What about that?
Yeah, well, China has always played a crucial role in my career and in my life. And I can only tell you so much, it also will in future.
Okay, well, we will see, and we're looking forward to the electrifying debate led by you. Now, my friend Roger, where are you hiding?
Dave, I'm trapped here in England. It's all kind of getting very interesting. We've got an interesting Prime Minister. We're doing, as Angelica says, this thing called Brexit, which is a bit like the okey cokey, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, shake it all about. And yeah, things are getting interesting. Like Angelica, I wanted to be there. I planned to be there. I was going to be there. But I'm afraid I can't because of the restrictions. And now, Dave, it's getting more. We've got to everybody in England has to wear a hard hat and we have to wear a high-vis jacket everywhere we go now. So, this is the reality, Dave. This is the world I'm living in. You're okay. Are you wearing hard hats in Amsterdam? Yet?
No, we do wear wooden shoes, but I must say, Roger, that hard hat suits you. You look great even in a hard hat, but I'm looking forward to meet you once again here in Europe or whether it's in the UK. But we will hear and see you during this event. Later on, you have a Q&A in depth with André. But before we move on, let's go and let's get started by introducing the CEO of eVBox. eVBox, as you know, the global leader in charging solutions for electric vehicles and related cloud services. Here is Christophe Vereenhoven.
Good afternoon and welcome to all of you. We thank you for taking the time today for this special edition of Revolution Digital. While the world is changing, Revolution is also evolving with its time. The annual conference turned into a expanded towards new Revolution Digital events, a bi-weekly Revolution podcast, and a year-round community initiatives. Digital allows us to open the borders and to connect today to every corner in the world. Electric mobility is a global concern, and it's a gratitude to see new international players contributing on a daily basis for a more sustainable future. Revolution is a movement that encourages people to share ideas and solutions which are accelerating the transition towards a zero-emission mobility. We are proud to welcome worldwide experts, mobility experts, and thought leaders that participate in engaging conversations about various topics, developments, and trends in the eMobility industry. I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome you here at Go West, the new headquarters of eVBox, still located in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, which I call the Silicon Valley of the EV charging industry worldwide. The space is dedicated to collaboration and innovation. And with the eVBox lab, including a testing paddock, it will allow our hardware teams to think, to create, and to test in the best conditions. All of this in a green and luminous environment, a sign of an optimistic and sustainable vision and future. While the industry is readjusting, we found it essential to continue the education of professionals on the current topics in our eMobility industry and to engage with our partners in a way that we can keep this machine moving forward, because this industry is on the move. So now let's start. I have the pleasure to welcome and to introduce Sharon Dijksma, Deputy Mayor of the City of Amsterdam, a driving force behind Amsterdam 2030, a plan to ban diesel and gasoline vehicles from the city. Please, Sharon, welcome and thank you for taking the time to be with us on this special edition of Revolution. Over to you.
Hello everybody, I'm all here in Amsterdam, and that has to do obviously with the outbreak of the COVID pandemic, which has hit the world hard, but also the city of Amsterdam. We are vulnerable not only when it comes to the health issue, but also if you look at our city economically. We are depending heavily on tourists, for instance, and they are not here at the moment. But at the same time, we have learned during this pandemic that, for instance, striving for better health and clean air is something that is still very necessary. And that means that our plans for improvement of air quality are still at place. And that we even feel more pressure, I would say, to make the next steps. And to do that, we need you, because we cannot do it as a municipality on our own. We need to tempt people to buy electric cars. We need to provide for instance, with charging points. We need to have a strategy on sharing mobility. And with all this, your companies could help us out. So I hope you would like to do that, and I hope that we will see each other face to face next year in Amsterdam. Thank you.
It's a great honor to introduce the next keynote speaker. It's André Bursberg. And André is a special type of guy. He is an entrepreneur with a great passion for exploration. And that exploration drive is matched by his persistence to make economic, environment, and spiritual change. It's a great honor to introduce André. So, André Bursberg, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon to everyone. When we were starting building Solar Impulse, our solar-powered airplane, which we're going to fly around the world, people often ask us which kind of new technology we were developing. And they were very astonished to hear that at the end, there was none. In fact, we were using what was existing. Electric motors are working since 100 years. Solar cells, you can use them on your rooftop. Batteries, we find them in portable phone, in computers. Maybe we make them a little bit better, but we used what existed. So it was not so much about technology. It was about developing the right mindset. Think about the Wright brothers. They used cloth, wood to build their airplane. Nothing new. It existed since 3,000 years. What they had to do first, of course, was to believe that it worked, convinced that there was a solution, and of course, the perseverance, the resilience to overcome all the obstacles, all the difficulties, all the challenges. And that's exactly what we had to do with Solar Impulse. And let me take you through a few very interesting situations. First of all, we had to build an airplane which was different from what we can find. It had to be able to fly day and night, so a new paradigm, demonstrating the potential of renewable energy. And to be able to fly day and night, it had to be extremely efficient. And explains why, in fact, it was so big, bigger in terms of wingspan than the wingspan of a 747, and very light. The weight of a car, not exceeding 2 tons. So on one side, we used existing materials like carbon fibers, but on the other side, we had to push the limits further. And when you push the limits, of course, you try not to go over these limits. So let me show you what happened. We were working on the second airplane, on designing the wing of the second aircraft, on building this wing. And the most important part is what we call the wing spar. That's what holds the wing. That's a bit like, our backbone here. Has to be very stiff, very solid, very light. So it's design, it's simulation, calculation. At the end, it's tested. And here you see these parts loaded with what we could expect the airplane to see when flying in turbulence in heavy winds. So the maximum loads. It's a very emotional moment for engineers because it's what I call the moment of truth. And at the end of the test, which had a duration of about 4 weeks, for the last test, when we got to 100% of the load, suddenly there was a huge noise, huge explosion. And this part literally opened up. So you can imagine the emotion of the entire team, especially of the engineers who designed it. It took 1 year, in fact, to build this part. So it was clear that we needed another year, in fact, to rebuild it. if we understood why it happened. And 1 year at this time costed us about 10 million, so a lot of money for a small organization. So it was clear we had a financial problem. It was clear we had a technical problem. We had to understand why, in fact, we went over these limits. And we had an emotional problem. We had a psychological problem. You know, you lose faith, you lose confidence, and you don't know where you are anymore. So there was a huge question mark. So I was there, and I was thinking, my God, we lost a year. How are we going to do it? And after a few days, and I like to walk in the woods when I need to think really deeply, I started to realize that suddenly, in fact, I had 1 more year available. 1 more year available to do something else. And with that one, we always had a dream in our head, was to bring our solar impulse airplane to the United States to do the coast-to-coast flight. That's what Lindbergh did, that's what all the pioneers did in the past. And more important, you know, if you don't fly in the United States, you don't exist for this country. You are not on their radar. So suddenly, with this year available, we could take the first airplane which was already flying, bring it to the US, and do this attempt. So we brought this airplane to California in San Francisco. And who was next to the airports that we started from? Google. We could bring Larry Page to see the airplane. They decided to become a partner. So suddenly, in fact, we had the financing that we were looking for, you know, this 10 million which we needed to rebuild the spa. But we had also an incredible partner on board in terms of communication. You know, when I was flying over the Pacific Ocean a few years later, you could see on the Google homepage when you have
All right. Yeah, well, I'm back here live again. Well, it's a revolution, but it's also a learning journey. It's an experience for you and me. So we had some little internet problems, and I'm really keen to hear the whole story of André Borsberg. So that's why we will reboot and have the presentation, the keynote of André Borsberg starting again. We'll ask him to do it again, and then we will be back live to you.
Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. When we were starting building Solar Impulse, you know, our solar-powered airplane, which we're going to fly around the world, people often ask us which kind of new technology we were developing. And they were very astonished to hear that at the end, there was none. In fact, we were using what was existing. Electric motors are working since 100 years. Solar cells, you can use them on your rooftop. Batteries, we find them in portable phone, in computers. Maybe we make them a little bit better, but we used what existed. So it was not so much about technology. It was about developing the right mindset. You know, think about the Wright brothers. They used cloth, wood to build the airplane. Nothing new. It existed since 3,000 years. What they had to do first, of course, was to believe that it worked, convinced that there was a solution, and of course, the perseverance, the resilience to overcome all the obstacles, all the difficulties, all the challenges. And that's exactly what we had to do with Solar Impulse. And let me take you through a few very interesting situations. First of all, we had to build an airplane which was different from what we can find. It had to be able to fly day and night, so a new paradigm, demonstrating the potential of renewable energy. And to be able to fly day and night, it had to be extremely efficient. And explains why, in fact, it was so big, you know, bigger in terms of wingspan than the wingspan of a 747, and very light. The weight of a car not exceeding 2 tons. So on one side, we used existing materials like carbon fibers, but on the other side, we had to push the limits further. And when you push the limits, of course, you try not to go over these limits. So let me show you what happened. We were working on the second airplane, on designing the wing of the second aircraft, on building this wing. And the most important part is what we call the wing spar. That's what holds the wing. That's a bit like, our backbone here. Has to be very stiff, very solid, very light. So it's design, it's simulation, calculation. At the end, it's tested. And here you see these parts loaded with what we could expect the airplane to see when flying in turbulence in heavy winds. So the maximum loads. It's a very emotional moment for engineers because it's what I call the moment of truth. And at the end of the test, which had a duration of about 4 weeks, for the last test, when we got to 100% of the load, suddenly there was a huge noise, huge explosion. And this part literally opened up. So you can imagine the emotion of the entire team, especially of the engineers who designed it. It took 1 year, in fact, to build this part. So it was clear that we needed another year, in fact, to rebuild it, if we understood why it happened. And 1 year at this time costed us about 10 million. So a lot of money for a small organization. So it was clear we had a financial problem. It was clear we had a technical problem. We had to understand why, in fact, we went over these limits. And we had an emotional problem. We had a psychological problem. You lose faith, you lose confidence, and you don't know where you are anymore. So there was a huge question mark. So I was there, and I was thinking, my God, we lost a year. How are we going to do it? And after a few days, and I like to walk in the woods when I need to think really deeply, I started to realize that suddenly, in fact, I had 1 more year available. 1 more year available to do something else. And with that one, we always had a dream in our head, was to bring our solar impulse airplane to the United States to do the coast-to-coast flight. That's what Lindbergh did, that's what all the pioneers did in the past. And more important, if you don't fly in the United States, you don't exist for this country. You are not on their radar. So suddenly, with this year available, we could take the first airplane which was already flying, bring it to the US, and do this attempt. So we brought this airplane to California, in San Francisco. And who was next to the airports that we started from? Google. We could bring Larry Page to see the airplane. They decided to become a partner. So suddenly, in fact, we had the financing that we were looking for, this 10 million which we needed to rebuild the SPA. But we had also an incredible partner on board in terms of communication. When I was flying over the Pacific Ocean a few years later, you could see on the Google homepage when you have this little window and you can put you search inside. Underneath there was Solar Impulse flying over the Pacific, and you could click over Solar Impulse and go on our website. And this was an incredible, of course, contribution to the project. But also, we could train. We could train the mission center. We could train ourselves flying in very dense traffic situations, landed ultimately at JFK. So I think without, in fact, this flight experience, without this flight mission, we would not have been prepared for the flight around the world. So from a situation which was desperate at a certain moment, just after breaking this SPA during the test, we finally were in a position which was much better than at the beginning. But why, in fact, did this happen? I think first of all, because we could get out of the fear of this difficult moment. We could rebuild our energy. we could look at the situation in a different way. So not only spend time on trying to understand and solving the problem, but trying to grasp what the new situation was providing of opportunities. And that's what I mean by resilience, putting fear on the side, but also regenerating ourselves. So to be in a position, in fact, to look at this new situation with the right level of a positive mind. So after a few years, we were ready to do our flight around the world, which was the goal of the project, demonstrate that these technologies make it possible to fly day and night, to fly in a sustainable way. We decided to start in Abu Dhabi. The first legs were over the countries, so pretty short flights of 12 to 24 hours to India, Myanmar, China, until we reached the coast of the Pacific Ocean. There was the challenge, because we knew, we had an incredible amount of water to cross over. The first possibility to land was Hawaii, and we knew it would take 5 days, 5 nights, at least, in fact, to be able to do this flight alone in the cockpit. So the question was, is the airplane capable of doing it? Do we have enough energy, and do we collect enough energy during the day and be sufficiently efficient to stay in the air through the night? And is the pilot sustainable as well, in fact, in order to be able to fly this aircraft for such a duration? So really big question mark. So we started to look for the right weather window. It took us in total 2 months to find it. So every day we decided to postpone, because every day we saw the weather deteriorating over the ocean. And you have to realize that, at the end of the night, it's like having the portable phone with the low battery mode switched on. You can do one phone call, but there's no plug. You need the sun. So we had to make sure that every morning we would be in a sunny situation to avoid, of course, ditching. So 2 months. We tried once, but I had to interrupt the flight in Japan because, again, the weather was deteriorating. And after 2 months, when I was in Nagoya, we decided to attempt and to try, in fact, this flight until and over to Hawaii. I took off at 3 o'clock in the morning, and what I was afraid of happened. After an hour of flight, suddenly I got an alarm in the cockpit. It rings badly. And what I call the virtual copilot failed. That's the equipment which measures what the airplane is doing and inform the pilot if there is too much speed, not enough speed, too much banks, whatever, in fact, situation has to be corrected. And this equipment, of course, is very important when the pilot is resting. Because there is no true autopilot, there is only a system to stabilize the airplane, but not more. So, of course, the engineers told me, Andre, no problem, you fly back to Japan, we fix the situation, we fix the technology, and then we find another weather window. But for the first time, the weather was improving over the ocean. So for the first time, in fact, it looked better. And I had long discussions with my partner Bertrand, and we decided that we couldn't miss this window, and I decided to continue. And when I said this to the engineers, they became completely crazy, so emotional. Many decided and threatened to leave the project. You are crazy, we don't want to stay with an organization where the management is completely stupid, they don't understand the risk. I knew there was a solution, because there was another equipment which we didn't test much, but I was part of the development which I could use. So I knew that I could find the way, in fact, to protect myself. But I didn't want to miss this weather window, because weather, as you understood, was so important. So I started to have discussions from the cockpit with all the engineers through the control center, trying to explain them what I was doing. And finally, in fact, I could have them stay on board. But the level of emotion was impressive. What I could prepare was, of course, all the technological part. I knew this airplane extremely well because I was part of the team who built it. I trained for this very carefully, but what I could not train was how to go through this emotional situation. So, you need plans, you need strategies, you need to train for that, but it will always develop in a different way. So in some ways, one has to prepare when he does something new, and I had to prepare myself for the unexpected. And I would even go further to welcome the unexpected. And it took me the entire night, in fact, to digest that. I didn't sleep at all. And when I saw the sunrise the following morning, I had the impression I could take this bag of emotion and throw this overboard. I didn't know if I had the right to impose this to my family. They were watching, they were listening to everything. I still had another 4.5 days to fly, and I really didn't know if it was right for me, in fact, to impose such a stress. So that was extremely hard. But the following day, in fact, I wanted to go back to to the state of mind that I prepared for, and welcoming the unexpected or preparing the unexpected, in some ways, is another way of building resilience. And building resilience is, on one side, putting fear on the side, because fear blocks you, makes you stay in the status quo, and stay in the status quo, of course, is certainly not the right way to move forward. But above all, it's also regenerating and rebuilding energy. And for me, yoga, meditation was always the way, in fact, to bring my energy back to the level I needed. Some kind of rituals. So I try to, find again and do the rituals I was used to be able to go back basically to this resilience, to this level of welcoming the unexpected. And 4.5 days later, I could land in Hawaii. I approached the island, in fact, at 10 p.m. at night, and I decided to land only the following morning. I didn't want to close this flight abruptly. I wanted to enjoy the last minute of it, realizing that at the end it became, and it was positive. So this last minute was basically the gift I received. I mean, such an incredible moment. And that at this moment that I really realized how good and how important was the potential of the technology we were using. Maybe not so much solar powered, because the airplane was extremely specific and designed, in fact, to be able to fly day and night. And if you go on vacation, you don't need, in fact, to fly such a long time. But electric propulsion, so reliable, clean, no noise. And I knew at this moment that I had to continue the development of these technologies and bring it to the market for commercial application. And that's the reasons why I started with colleagues of mine, age 55. And have a look at what we are doing.
We all know that we cannot continue wasting our resources and destroying the environment. Innovation will be the key to make our world more sustainable. This is my life mission. For 13 years, we developed Solar Impulse. And in 2016, we could fly around the world with an electric-powered airplane. With H55, we want to take Solar Impulse know-how and legacy one step further. We want to make air transport clean and quiet by providing certified electric propulsion solution to the aviation industry. I believe that electric propulsion will revolutionize aviation. Electric motors and software have created the world of drones, as it will create the world of VTOL and flying taxis. H55 first application is to make this BRM Aero electric as an electric flight trainer. This is the first step towards clean aviation. We are at the beginning of a revolution, and I tell you, we will not understand in the future why we did not start earlier with these technologies. You know, this is the sound of the past. This is what we'll have in museum very soon.
So as you understood, we are, and I am convinced that electric propulsion will revolutionize aviation. And I think there are three critical reasons for that, factual reasons. The first one, which is, I almost want to say dramatic, is that the efficiency of an electric motor is extremely high. So the energy that you put in the electric motor is used for propulsion, almost entirely. But if you take a combustion engine, 2 liters out of 3 that you put in your tank, as you know, a car or an airplane, these 2 liters out of 3 are lost in heat. They're not used to propel or to make the car move forward. It's lost. So it's clear that we cannot keep wasting our resources. That's number one. Number two, in fact, the electric motors is very simple. There is no parts to wear. There is no friction. It's simple. So there is very little maintenance. And of course, potentially the service life is much longer. I mean, you can dream about a car driving for 1 million kilometers. It changes the paradigms. It changes the way we look at all this hardware. We make it, of course, much cheaper to operate. But above all, and I think that's very interesting to understand, and maybe different from what you can see in the car industry, it allows you to design new type of aircraft. Because you can have 1 motor, 10 motors, doesn't make a difference. No maintenance, same weight, same power. So you can start dreaming about building an airplane which take off vertically like a drone, you know, these little drones that you have for cameras, and having it fly horizontally then with wings, so like an airplane. So you get the benefits of the helicopter and the benefits of an airplane in one, but without the negatives, the heavy maintenance costs, the heavy consumptions, the heavy generation of CO2. And that's what we are seeing in the market. And it's interesting, it's not so much about technology. The batteries are good enough for a lot of applications, and I'm sure we can improve the mobility over our cities using the third dimension. So using this flying taxi. So it's not so much about technology, it's about developing the right mindset. I mean, we are good about seeing the problems. I don't think we are so good about understanding where we really have opportunities. And I think it's really about resilience. So I'm convinced that there are solutions. We'll work on it. Now we have to make sure that we keep our resilience at a very high level. But I believe you're also facing a lot of challenges. So I wish you also to build your resilience, to be able to regenerate yourself. Find your rituals. Find what brings you energy up again so that you can elevate yourself, understand what these new situations are all about, and go for the opportunities which are in front of you. Good luck to all of you.
Andre. Andre, thank you so much for that. That was absolutely spectacular to be taken on a journey around the planet, to talk to someone who has flown for a longer duration than any human being ever known. This is extraordinary. You know, I feel I never got the chance to speak to Neil Armstrong. I guess very few people really did, in truth. But I feel you're in that arena. You've broken new ground. You've taken huge risks, personal risks, and you've done amazing things. So one thing I'd love to get a quick understanding of is, your sense of challenge and change and risk, and one of the things as an aviator, you understand, you understand turbulence very, very well. I'm sure sometimes too well. We are in turbulent times now. Humanity is in this turbulent time of a pandemic. What did you learn flying around the world that perhaps with all that turbulence, you could help us all cope maybe a bit better with the pandemic we all now face? Do you have any thoughts on that to share with us, please?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Roger, for your very kind remarks and introduction. Flying with this solar airplane was impressive. I think, first of all, not just because it was quiet and when you have an electric propulsion, you get rid of the noise, but just looking at the sky, seeing these sun rays, hitting the wing where we had the solar cells integrated, understanding that with these sun rays, I could fly. I could store enough energy to be able to fly through the following night and still be in the air afterwards. This was incredible. And it shows that, if we have an efficient world, if we know how to use our resources, how to use our energy, we can also go through, in fact, our own nights, our own times as a society. So, in fact, the way we live is exactly the way we flew. The energy is available and it's sufficient if we are efficient enough. So let's use these technologies. They are all available, and I think that's really part of the discussions that we have today.
Yes. Now, last year, we had Ron Garan, an astronaut. Ron Garan, he's written this book, Orbital Perspective. Perhaps you've read it, but I haven't. I loved it. And what struck me was that, you made all of that huge effort. You had to make all of that personal sacrifice. You worked, tirelessly for years to fly around the world. Why didn't you just become an astronaut, Andre, and fly around the planet in 90 minutes? It would have been a lot easier.
I guess it was a dream as well. I mean, I did not move into this direction, but I'm sure it must be an incredible experience to see our planets. And I've been talking also to the astronauts who went to the moon and who could see an Earth rise on the moon horizon. I think that's something, which must be absolutely incredible. But I think we can also do a lot of things, and we need to do a lot of things closer to the planet. And for me, I had the chance to start flying when I was 15. I could join the Air Force, become an entrepreneur. And when I met Bertrand Piccard a few years ago, all these dreams of my childhood became alive. And it was not just the purpose of flying, but flying differently, with the technology which would allow us ultimately to have a clean aviation. So Solar Impulse is the first step. Now we are moving into commercializing these technologies through our new startups. The potential is incredible already short term. Don't believe that we will fly all electric in long distance flights immediately. But I think we can start with a lot of applications. And if we don't start today, we'll not understand why we didn't start earlier in the future. So that's now that we can make the change. Yes.
Well, on that point, because far fewer people are flying. If you do go to an airport these days, I'm told, I haven't been all year. It's very quiet. So the nature of travel seems to be changing, of course, in the short term because of the pandemic. But do you think in the mid and long term that people's habits will change? We will perhaps not travel so far and actually use, as you say, the third dimension when you finished your presentation there, for electric taxis, air taxis, for 200, 300, 400, 500 mile trips. So people will get to know, become more local in some way. I'm not saying nobody will travel around the world, they still will, but not in the numbers. Do you see this current situation reshaping aviation as we know it and enabling and accelerating the adoption of electric aircraft?
I sincerely hope it will be the case. I think through the pandemic, I guess we understood that we can do things in a different way. I mean, today we interact through the technology. Of course, it's not the same than connecting physically, but we understand that we can do quite a lot, in fact, this way. So I guess, in fact, people will change the way they have been traveling in the past. I think the second understanding today is that through the pandemic, we also seen the amount and the impact we have as human beings on the planet Earth. And we realize by slowing down the positive effect it has. So I'm also hopeful that people will realize that not only changing the habits will help, but also implementing the new technologies we have available, such as, for example, electric propulsion for clean aviation, such as the use of renewable energy, such as electric mobility on the ground, I mean, electric cars. So I believe, yes, that we'll see an acceleration in this direction, but of course we also need the support of the political world because they define the framework on how the industry can grow, and this framework is very important.
Sure. Okay. I'm really interested in a sort of personal thing. So you had, and I'll check my notes here, 117 hours and 52 minutes to fly between Japan and Hawaii. So you've got a lot of work to do to keep the aircraft safely in the air. Other things, which I'm not an aviator, so I don't know what the other things would be, but I'm sure there are lots. But what did you do for all that time? Did you read a book? Did you write poetry? Did you just look at the wonder of the planet from your plane? How did you spend all that time, particularly on that leg, that longest flight, that any man has ever or woman has ever flown? What did you do with all that time?
Yes, interesting, because I really don't have the impression that I was annoyed 1 minute. I guess through the presentation I made, you understood that the beginning was pretty special and pretty hard, as we had big conflict of should we continue or not. So the first 24 hours were really focused on this, and then it took me quite a long time, in fact, to go back to my level of energy. Then the flying tactics also was very important, because every morning I had to be in a sunny situation. Every day I was climbing to almost 30,000 feet, so that the altitude of the airliners. During the night, much lower. So we had to cross different weather systems and make sure that I was flying over clouds at the right moment. So there was a lot of discussions, change in route, change in strategies. But what it gave me was also the time to reflect.
Yeah.
And I think, when you see an airplane which is so reliable, flying 5 days, 5 nights with the possibility to continue. At the end, I was the weak spot, in fact, in this aircraft, and the weak link. Technology could have flown much further. I mean, you understand that this technology has an incredible potential. So I guess that was also the moment when I decided that it would be a pity that we just do this flight around the world. I mean, if we succeed, of course, we were not yet at the middle of the entire trip. But if the flight was going to be successful, really to see what was the possibility to bring this technology to commercial application and to have everyone benefiting, in fact, not only from this incredible experience, but from what it brings in terms of reduction of CO2 and make it quiet and so on and so on there.
Yes.
I think this was the trigger moment when I arrived in Hawaii.
Okay, can you help us with something? In the electric vehicle world, we have, there's two parts to it, you could argue in many ways. There's the vehicles themselves, and then there's the infrastructure, the charging infrastructure. So you have electric aircraft, you've got to charge them somehow, whether they're fuel cells or batteries, you need to, power them up. Is there anything you're learning or you've observed that we could do better in the electric vehicle world in regard to infrastructure and charging, or not? Or are you trying to learn things yourself for aviation? Where do you see those two parts of the dynamic?
I think the challenge for aviation is, I think, is not to discover what the technologies can do, because I think we understand it. We get the experience from the car industry, which is developing already. So we know what electric motors can do, how efficient it is. I guess we start to have a good understanding about the behavior of batteries. The challenge for aviation is to bring this technology in an aircraft and to demonstrate it's safe. We call it certification. We know the challenge that Boeing is facing with the 737. They crashed 2 airplanes.
Yeah.
And then they decided to ground it, but they were forced to ground it because one specific software was not safe enough. And it went not through the normal certification process. And this is the difficult part, specifically for new technologies. How to make sure that everything will work all the time, how to make sure that there is no dramatic end or conclusion if, for example, one component fails. And this is a lot of testing, this is a lot of simulation, this is building up experience.
Right.
And we can talk about what we do about this H55, but basically our goal is to bring the world of innovation which you have in this electric propulsion dimension with the world of aviation, which is very conservative, which asks you to follow very, very stringent rules. And merging these two is where, in fact, the future will be.
Sure. I've got a final question. This is my very lucky place to be with you right now, asking my own questions. But of course, in about half an hour or so, we'll be getting questions from the audience. We'll be putting their videos on so they can ask you literally in person, well, via the video. And I'm really looking forward to that. But can I ask a final question then? If you had one piece of advice for everybody watching this event who clearly is watching it because they want to be a part of changing things for the better, what should they do in terms of their either attitude or, what work they're choosing to do or their spirit? Is there one thing you would give to people as encouragement to, keep going and make a difference?
I think I would mention 3.
Okay.
I think, first of all, believe in what you are doing. If you're not convinced, there is no way you can really bring it further. So I think it's important to build up internally this. It's not only a belief, but this strength. Second, I think is perseverance. We talked about resilience before, perseverance, and perseverance is not obstination. No, it's not just having the physical strength to continue. No, is to understand when I have obstacles, which kind of new way I could find, and continue in this direction, persevere. And this you cannot do it alone. So that's my third point. You need a team. So you have to really build up a team, and it's through the team that you can achieve these difficult steps or these changes. Solar Impulse. You hear about Bertrand Piccard, you hear about myself, you hear about the pilots, but we were 140. I think each person in this team was extremely important to make it a success.
Yeah, well, that's a great note to finish on. It just reminds me very quickly of, I once talked to Ross Brawn, Formula One racing guy, and he said his favorite acronym was TEAM, T-E-A-M, which stood for Together, Everyone Achieves More. Yeah. And in fact, he gave that message to my son and the other students when they were just going through their, leaving school phase, just as an illustration of exactly your point. We can achieve great things. You can have belief, you can have perseverance, but ultimately you need to be part of a team. And then if everybody has those things, amazing things can happen, as you've clearly shown us in your keynote. So for now, thank you so much, Andre. That's been absolutely enlightening. It's been a delight and pleasure to talk to you. And I'm so looking forward to the audience having their turn to ask a bunch of questions. So
great.
For now, thank you very much. And I'm going to say something I've always wanted to say. And now back to the studio. Hopefully.
Talk to you later.
Yeah, thanks, Andre. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon.
Yes, well, it's been quite exciting. And now it's time for our electrifying debate. I'm very proud to introduce to you 4 of the industry experts discussing the future of mobility. Now, here live in the studio at eVBox headquarters in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, Michael Hayes, Managing Director, CEO of eMobility. On the other side, Michiel Langezaal, CEO and founder of Fastnet. And then calling in from France, Mathieu Bonnet, CEO of Allegro. Calling in from Brussels, Yorgo Chatzimarkakis, Secretary General of Hydrogen Europe. And calling in from Vienna, our EV advocate, Angelica Berger-Sodium. She will moderate this session with these 4 EV experts. Now, you can enjoy the conversation, but you can also be part of this live panel. So don't forget in your questions in the Q&A panel on the right, and don't forget to take sides in this battle. Angelica, the floor is yours.
Dave, thanks so much for setting the stage in such a lovely way. I'm super excited to host this session today. Before we go into details, I would very much appreciate if the 4 panelists could introduce themselves, because we have 4 guys with amazing backgrounds here on our virtual table today. And I think it would be super helpful for all of us to hear a little bit more about what you have done, what you are up for. So if you could just kind of share, just very briefly, 1 or 2 minutes, who you are, what your company is basically specialized in, so that we have a bit of an understanding. I think that would be amazing as a first step.
Who do you want to start with?
Mathieu, would you mind starting?
Yeah, thank you, Angelica. So my background is one of an energy engineer, and I've been working in power generation for nearly 20 years. And I've been in the e-mobility for now 10 years, I guess, beginning to balance some discrepancies on the grid with the first EV cars. But now I'm the CEO of a tremendous company, Allegro, based in the Netherlands. We are a CPO, public charging operator, from slow charging to fast and ultra fast charging. We have more than now 20,000 sockets. And we are in mainly with offices in 6 countries, and we are working for 14 countries now. So and the market is growing, and we have developed to manage all that an EV cloud platform, which is I think quite performing well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Michael, would you mind going next?
Yeah, my name is Michael Hayes. I'm the CEO of eMobility. eMobility, a company that was founded in 2017. The mission is to continuously deploy our high-power charging network across Europe. As of today, we're live in more than 23 countries. We have a network of more than 270 stations live already. For sure, more to come, and also very important, powered by 100% renewables in all the countries. Before that, I worked many years for an OEM company called BMW in Munich, and my background is mechanical engineering.
Thank you so much. Yorgo, how about yourself?
My name is Yorgo. I am a political engineer. So I'm the SecGen of Hydrogen Europe, which is the leading hydrogen association in Europe with more than 200 members, most of them industrial members, but we also have research institutions and national associations. Our mission is no emission. We think that traffic mobility adds up to the CO2 emissions globally in a very, very high manner, and we need to reduce that. We have different pathways to do that. The best is to use renewably produced hydrogen and to put this into a fuel cell and to produce heat, water vapor, and electricity, and your car goes. But also there are other ways what to do with all these cars second-hand, third-hand, which will be there for the next 15, 20, 30 years. So synthetic fuels based on clean hydrogen are here a solution, less efficient, but it's a fast way to deliver to net zero emission. So overcoming chicken and egg problem will be discussed later on. Again, our mission is no emission.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Michiel.
Yeah, Fastnet. Fastnet's mission is to provide freedom to electric drivers. The company was founded in 2012 with the idea we see mass-produced electric vehicles coming. There's factories being developed, cars are coming on the market. And then you buy an electric car. And how do you drive around throughout Europe, throughout the world? You need to charge somewhere. And that's what we do. We build charging stations, we own them, we operate them. And people can go there and they can charge their car. And then after around 20 minutes, 15 minutes at the moment, they can continue their journey. So basically what a petrol station is for petrol cars, Fastnet builds charging stations for electric cars.
Thank you so much. Super interesting. Well, basically, we will have 30 minutes now, 30 minutes in total for our discussion. We have an overarching question and an overarching theme, which is basically the future of mobility. We are not looking into the year, 2080 today. We are really kind of looking into the near future of mobility. So let's say kind of the next 5 years, the next 10 years. How will basically the future of mobility look like? And we have actually prepared two overarching questions and two overarching themes. The idea is that we would have our electrifying debate now for a maximum of 20 minutes. And in parallel, the audience will send questions through, which I will then kind of, kindly ask you to answer at the end of our session. So that's basically the plan. To start with, I would really kind of appreciate to get kind of an opening statement from all of you in regards to your take and how you basically think that the future of mobility will look like in regards to the big question, electric versus hydrogen. I mean, I personally, as some of you might know, I've worked for NEO for the past few years, so I am an EV advocate. I don't know much about hydrogen, but I'm super keen to hear from you what you think, to benefit basically from your expertise. So if I may ask each and every single of you to share your opening statement, your initial thoughts on how will the future look like? Will there be a question of electric versus hydrogen? Will that go in parallel? Is there any of the technologies which will prevail? So please kindly just share with us what you think. That would be super cool. And I think in order to simplify, it would be good if we could start with Mathieu again. Mathieu, could you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, Angelica. Yes, I have two words maybe to stress this mobility, the clean energy, so electricity, EVs, or as Jorgo said about hydrogen can bring that, so it will be key for the future, that's for sure. And there might be different technologies to reach this goal, and we'll see what will happen regarding that. And the second one is optimization. I think the way we drive and the way we transport people will change. So we will see optimization in the assets, which is a car, and I am thinking about the sharing patterns, for instance. There will be as well, maybe a bit far-fetched, but optimization of time, which is the autonomous car. And there will be as well, I guess, the optimization regarding the environment. When I see, when I say so, I consider the optimization of different kinds of transportation, from individual cars to collective transportation, and which is the mass mobility as a services. And behind that, there is, and it is possible because of digitalization. And for me, digitalization is linked with electricity. So I don't know what will be the future, but I think the EV car will still be there in the future. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, so am I. Thank you. Michael, how does your future of mobility look like? What's your view? What's your take?
Well, thanks, Angelica. Well, I would say it's electric, it's battery electric. And why is it? If we look over the development over the last decade and what we see today, people can make choice of more than 200 models already in the next year being electric or plug-in hybrids available on the European market. We see huge investments into infrastructure deployment, and we see huge investments into the full industry of battery electric vehicles. So as you said, we are not talking about 2050 or 2060, we're talking more 2025, 30. My clear statement is the future is battery electric.
Interesting. Thank you so much. Jorgo.
Well, my statement is possibly surprisingly not the future is just hydrogen, because the future will be a mix. And I think it was always wrong to put both technologies against each other. By the way, hydrogen electric cars are electric cars.
Yes.
They produce electricity on the vehicle, but with less weight. I think this is one of the biggest things. I think every technology has the niche or has the application where it can perform best. I never would suggest to use a hydrogen car in an urban environment where you need less than 40 kilowatt hours. If you have more than 40 kilowatt and you use, or you have to do big distances, then you might look into it. And I never would suggest to use batteries in trucks, because there 100 kilometers are equal to 1 ton of battery at the moment. In the hydrogen case, it's only 1 kilo that you can do, that you use then for 100 kilometers. And this is where we need to cooperate. I think we need to overcome the chicken and egg situation in infrastructure in both cases. There, battery is doing well. Unfortunately, battery does not have a single standard. We are better in the standards because we have a global standard that you can use for passenger cars, and we are currently also developing one for trucks. However, we have a mismatch in too many hydrogen refueling stations, for instance in Germany, where we have 100 of them, but only 500 cars. So in our case, the industry, the OEM industry, did not produce enough cars in order to match the existing infrastructure. I myself, I'm using every day a hydrogen car, and I can tell you this hydrogen car is already a hybrid product. It has a 80 kilowatt fuel cell, and it has a buffer battery of 40 kilowatts. So you can see it's 120 altogether, and it works already with both technologies, although it's a pure hydrogen car. So you see, the future is the best mix to achieve what? To achieve system efficiency, which leads to climate efficiency, and that's what we strive for.
Sounds amazing. Michiel, what's your take?
Yeah, I look at it from climate change perspective, and I think if I look at that, then I think you need to look at what's the most efficient. And and in the end, if you look at that problem for society, then you begin with a solar panel, and you have a solar panel on the roof. You put a cable onto it, and you basically connect it to your car, maybe with a little bit of power electronics in between, and you charge a battery. And on every kilowatt hour of solar energy that you generate, you can drive, well, a bit around, depending on how the size of the car is, 5 kilometers or so. If you compare that with the efficiency of a hydrogen system, if you would generate that also with clean energy, so you would again start with a solar panel, then that kilowatt hour of energy, you need to throw half of it away to generate hydrogen. And then you put that hydrogen in a tank, you're going to compress it, you're going to do all kinds of complicated things. And in the end, then you're going to use a fuel cell, and you throw away again half of the energy. And then you have electricity, and then you start to drive electric. Well, I think, in that sense, for me, hydrogen is something of, when I was a child and I looked at Thunderbirds Argo, I think it was nice, it was there, but we have a more efficient technology available now, and I think we should use it. We, in our generation, need to solve the energy problem. We need to solve the energy transition and the climate change issue. And we need to go electric. There's just no doubt about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you so much. Jorgo, I have another question for you, if you don't mind. You and I had a brief chat just before basically our session, and you also mentioned that especially these days, I think even today, just before, there was a really important meeting where kind of, also energy or basically hydrogen funds and subsidies and loads of other important topics have been discussed. What is your take, just generally speaking? Is there a lot more attention? Are there many more chances? Is there more focus on hydrogen these days and also on hydrogen-related activities than it might have been a few years back?
Yeah, I would like to congratulate Mathieu, because in his country today, there was a big day for the hydrogen ecosystem, because the plan of the government was released. It's 7 billion euro for the next 10 years, whereby most of it should be consumed the next 3 to 4 years. That shows that many governments, like Germany with 9 billion, like Portugal with more than 1 billion, which is a small country, have understood that it is important to have a variety of different technologies, building a system efficiency. I do not agree with what we just heard, that an efficiency of one technology can save us all. It's not the case. Come to Germany and see which kind of electricity we're using there. Austria is fine, Germany is not fine. And then you see that we are polluting using at the moment battery electric cars. And that we need to mitigate by using all technologies, and system efficiency leads to climate efficiency. And that's what the French, the Germans and others, the Dutch, the Austrians have understood. And we are super happy about that.
Thank you so much. Anybody wants to add something? Anybody wants to kind of, ask some additional questions?
Well, I think just to comment on the, let's say, system efficiency for the climate protection or the climate impact. I think applying hydrogen in the industry that really is energy intensive, where pure electricity in combination with batteries might have their challenges, like aluminum, steel, shipping, and so on, which is really energy intensive. There, maybe hydrogen is really a very efficient way to deploy the energy. On the other side, I can only say the same words like Michael already said, in terms of having just the production, a transition in between, and then the usage in the car or in the house or wherever. With the beauty of e-mobility being connected into the everyday's life, be it at home, be it at workplace, be it at shopping, be it at leisure, be it everywhere, that's a fuel of the future and a huge benefit for all of us that we shouldn't miss and really push for sure, even if both are used and produced on a 100% renewable base.
I fully agree. Just a question. Do you mean that also for hard-to-abate sectors like trucks, like long haul?
Well, the race is open, I would say, in terms of if hydrogen makes the race or if battery makes the race. I think both technology are quite young. We have huge investments and huge innovation steps right in front of us. I always compare it with a four-cylinder diesel engine as of today, or gasoline engine as of today. 20 years ago, 40 years ago, that engine was way less, let's say, efficient as of today. And we will see the same with the drivetrain for electric and battery electric vehicles for sure. Yeah, so, but as of today, the efficiency, the pure efficiency of renewable energy produced and consumed is 3 to 4 times better than with any hydrogen as of today. And that's the starting point.
I think the way I look at it, it's like sort of, sector by sector, we'll have to see like how do we move from a fossil environment to a sustainable environment. And I think for passenger cars, it's been decided it's electric. There's practically no car maker that is moving on with any sort of hydrogen solution. So that's a done deal. I think if we look at trucks, well, we'll have to see. I see some electric trucks coming. I see some hydrogen solutions on the market. We'll have to see how that evolves. I have strong beliefs that there is a solution in let's say, at least a certain set being electric. I do see that there might be solutions which could be hydrogen, but I don't think it's a done deal yet. It's definitely not decided. Well, we might see how that evolves for buses. I think we see electric buses. We also see some hydrogen buses on the market. Whether that's a sort of a decision taken, well, I'll let that up for the rest of the panel. I agree fully with Michael. There's a whole discussion around sort of industrial areas where I'm definitely not an expert, so I have difficulties in forming even an opinion about it. We might see it in boats or not, I don't know, but I think when we look at passenger electric cars or passenger cars, I think that's sort of the industry is now moving so fast in its exponential growth curve that there's basically there's no chance of that in the coming decades having any chance of being non-electric.
But it's a myth.
Gentlemen, sorry to interrupt. I've just seen that we have already received quite a few questions coming in from the audience. And before we kind of start answering the audience's questions, there is one more question that I would love to ask you. We might not even have time for statements for all 4 of you, but maybe kind of at least 1 or 2, or kind of some quick answers. We would really be interested in knowing on how you see what we should all do or could do in order to basically support mass market transformation. So as we all know, this, I mean, at the moment a lot is going on, but we will need to probably think slightly differently when it is really kind of, for the mass market. And so my question to you would be also kind of, based on your background and the way how you see or look at the future, what exactly could be done in order to support basically mass market transformation? Whoever wants to go first.
Well, let's make a short statement. I think one of the key drivers of success is really availability of infrastructure. And if you look at the landscape as of today, even if it is very diverse across Europe, in different countries, on a different maturity level, the deployment rates in each country is huge, it's exponential, that will grow. And this shows that this technology of the infrastructure, or the infrastructure, is the absolutely key point for really getting away all the anxieties from the people going for this technology. Yeah, we see the offers in the market from the OEMs. As I said, next year it's over 200 models you can choose out in Europe, and the infrastructure is there. Yeah, so just to go that way, the starting point again is there, and infrastructure is key. So having the right infrastructure, and again, beauty of e-mobility, be it at home with AC or at the workplace, or maybe small DCs, public available in the city, as long as IONITY is focusing on the long distance, is there, makes sense, and we need to deploy more to really convince the people in the next step also go for this mobility pattern.
I think it's a systemic change, and any systemic change needs policy-driven actions. And otherwise, we will not achieve mass market. It's the same for EV or for FCEVs or fuel cell or battery electric cars. So we need policy to understand that it needs to support this systemic change and the infrastructure investments. We heard that the race is on. Of course, the race is on. On the other hand, as I said, there are applications for all these technologies, and there will be other technologies as well. And that is why we should not punch each other. There's way of room enough for both technologies to flourish. We need the political support. That's why it's bad to talk bad about each other, because politicians need a convincing cooperation of all these technologies leading to net zero. That's the most important goal, net zero. And I agree, whenever there is no efficiency, stop it. Don't go with hydrogen cars into urban environments. But where there is the efficiency given, then we should also go for it. Thank you.
Yeah, what I think, Angelica, is important as well, just to go back to what Michael said and Jorgo, is that the policy is important, but the policy must trace the fact that the market should rule as well, meaning that the most efficient way to do the goal and to reach the goal should be chosen. So it means that the infrastructure is key in the EV, and it must not be hindered by, I don't know, hydrogen new plants, for instance. It will be a pity. So the markets, I think that's very important. We must have a free choice, and the most efficient technology will prevail.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, guys. Well, I keep getting loads of questions basically from the audience. Let me maybe just start with the first one. How do you see the future? How do you see the near future in regions where EV markets are not currently fully deployed yet, like, for example, in Latin America? What is your take on that?
Well, Latin America, take Chile. Chile will be one of the giants of the production of renewable energy. Acatama Desert, it's very high, it's very sunny, and it's cold. So Chile will be a giant of renewable production. But how to bring this renewable energy to all the other big states in Southern America, or even to Europe? Hydrogen is one of the solutions, and the Chilean government is working on that. And here you see that efficiency is very relative, because they don't have the power grid to transport this energy, and they might also look into this hydrogen. So that's my answer, of course, to it.
Yes, and I would like to add that there are some price issue. The cars are more expensive right now than the fuel ones, the internal combustion engine. And in some countries, even in Latin America, some oil is subsidized. So it's difficult to achieve electricity, knowing that the electricity sometimes comes from oil. So not very efficient.
No, true. I have another really good question from Stanislav Nikolov. Are there enough qualified people to install hydrogen stations If they are not, what are you going to change that? What are you going to do to change that?
It's not a big secret to build a hydrogen fueling station. Alone in Germany, we have 100 now. In all over Europe, we have 150. Germany went faster than the others. So it is a technology that can be learned, that is applicable, that is safe as all the other technologies, or unsafe as all the others. So it works very well. I'm using it, as I said, on a nearly daily basis, and I have nothing to complain.
Good, thank you so much. Next question. CO2 capture and storage has unfortunately been used as an excuse for investing in coal power, but the CO2 is not anywhere near being captured. How do we avoid hydrogen being used as an excuse for investigating in natural gas? Björn is asking.
There are different technologies to use natural gas as a base for hydrogen. The worst is the classical one with no CCS. CCS is an option. However, the projects that are planned need to deliver. And I think I have good reasons to understand that green hydrogen, renewably produced hydrogen, will outcompete the CCS technology. But the third one is pyrolysis. That's cutting natural gas into solid carbon and clean hydrogen. And the solid carbon you can use as a feedstock, or you bury it. However, it's a quite cheap technology, 10 years behind electrolysis, but it will come and it will play quite a substantial role, pyrolysis.
Cool, thank you. Let me read the next question to you. Would it not be more effective for public funds to focus on battery electric for pretty much everything, and the segments that are hard to electrify go for hydrogen? So we could avoid hydrogen trying to get into passenger buses and trucks. Monica is asking.
That's what we just said.
Yeah.
We said that hard to abate should be the sector where hydrogen prevails. And also the panel said that in industry, hydrogen is the best way to decarbonize heavy industry. That's true. I'm not going through all the details, but that's what we do. That's what also policymakers understand. So just to give one example, the German hydrogen plan, the 7+2 billion euro that Germany foresees, go mostly into the hard to abate sector and not into hydrogen in passenger cars. So it is foreseen already by politicians.
I would cope on that one as well, and saying if the policy is focusing on the, also by Jorge mentioned, efficiency regime, so apply the technology where it's most efficient, and then really make the policy in that way is the clear way forward. And with the eMobility, we see that very clearly to say we have a lot of policies in place asking for, let's say, reliable interoperability and easy to use and access infrastructure already, which is already in place, which will now get refined. And we will now put in, hopefully, the efficiencies regime, and then I think each technology will find its niche and market.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There is a last question which I would like to ask. How about micromobility? One person has basically asked kind of, is there a link, or how do you see basically the future of micromobility? Is there a link also to hydrogen, or how would that go?
Well, first of all, I would suggest, I'm also in an ecological party, use your bicycle for micromobility. But yes, indeed, there are even hydrogen bicycles. However, for drones, hydrogen makes sense, but I wouldn't suggest it at the moment for micromobility. That's a field for a battery, and that's the best way to use batteries.
Yeah, let's keep it simple. I think battery, it's pretty well and works pretty well. So
absolutely agree. Fully agree.
Yeah, perfect. Well, gentlemen, we have 5 minutes left for our debate today. So what I would basically love to hear from you is if there was one final thing, or one thing basically that you would want the audience to remember from our discussion today, what would it be? So kind of, just one final statement from all four of you. What is the thing to remember about our debate and generally about the near future of mobility?
Well, I think if I might say so, I think urgency is important. We need to actually start doing something. And there's many people here in the room, online, that are doing something. But I often hear where are the electric cars? How are they coming? Well, there's a lot happening. It's growing exponentially. There's much more infrastructure needed. To do good, you actually need to do something. And I think that's really what's needed. So I would really like to urge governments, issue locations to build charging stations, issue policies that provide funds to build those charging stations, make policies to drive cars to become electric. We need to do this. This is the issue of our generation. We need to fix climate change. This is our issue.
Thank you.
Well, picking on that one, saying also from the, let's say, investor's point of view, it's very important what Mikkel said. One is the regulator and the policy framework. On the other side, also from really showcasing like IONITY is doing and delivering a European-wide network in a very short amount of time on a very high level and powered by 100% renewable, also provide the confidence because to the investors, because it will cost us a lot of money to either develop, deploy, manufacture and produce vehicles and infrastructure on both sides on a very fast and very efficient way. And that's something which we should continue and remember to also make use then and see really the climate impact in a positive sense.
Thank you.
I think if I might add to it, I think in 2012 we founded Fastnet, and in the years thereafter, based on media articles, we got phone calls from people. How can I support this effort? How can I support the building of infrastructure? How can I send my money somewhere? Can I invest in it? And of course, this is at that time maybe a handful of people, but there's a large growing community of people that want to see this happening. And I think we need to give these people a podium. We need to allow them to do this, and we need to help them. We're doing this. Sure. Michael is doing this, and join that revolution.
Thank you.
So
Mathieu and Jorgo, some closing statements from your side?
Yeah, sure. I would like to use the word inevitability, which means that, well, be prepared to have an EV car, which is important for us, because if we need to have customers, and the best pressure to get this new sector worldwide and deployed is to have customer and pressure from customers. Because with efficiency and with what the customer and the people wants, we can make it happen. And I much more believe in that rather than in policy or people in just offices to do stuff. So please just buy a car, EV car.
Okay. Cool, thank you so much. Jorgo, we have 1 minute left.
I would say the most important thing is we need to overcome ideologies. So I'm a quite hard cookie. I started with 16, 17 to be interested in hydrogen. So I'm a strong hydrogen believer, of course. However, I don't think it's good and cool to stay and not to understand how the other technologies can contribute to net zero all in all. And that's what we need to do. We need to overcome the confrontation between these ideological things. There's no room for it if we really want to achieve climate neutrality. Again, our mission, no emission.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, that was hugely interesting. I have personally learned a great deal, and I'm sure so has our audience. Thanks so much again, for joining us. And with that, I would like to hand back actually to Dave.
Yeah, here I am again. Thank you very much. It was a great discussion. I love it. It was concrete, it was to the point, and it really helped us further into a future of zero emission. Now, I like to invite, of course, my guests here live in the studio, but also Mathieu, Jorgo, and Angelica to join us later on for the virtual drinks, because we will have some virtual drinks for completely free. For now, I'd like to thank you a lot, and we will go on for the next exciting phase of Revolution 2020. Okay. Okay, welcome back. Well, it was a great discussion. Angelica, thank you very much, and we will see you at the virtual drinks later on. But now it's actually time for our 4 breakouts. Those breakouts will take place at the same time, so you have to pick which breakout would you like to join. We have a breakout led by Roger Atkins, and he will go into depth with André Borsberger. And also, he will offer the opportunity for you to ask questions to André Borsberger. So that will be the first breakout. The second breakout you can choose is the startup pitching competition. It's new this year at Revolution, and it is the startup pitching competition powered by Startup Company and eVBox. Now, this competition is dedicated to help exciting startups to get their ideas heard. And there will be 2 prizes awarded. First of all, the jury award, which will be determined by our jury of experts, and the audience award. And that will give you the opportunity to actually vote for your favorite project. So that's the second breakout. The third breakout you can choose from is the virtual marketplace. Now, as you know, we have great friends and great companies that are leading and have the best technology in the mobility industry. I say like companies like Geotab, NIU, the Mobility House, eVBox, and of course Evron. Now, they all will be present in the virtual marketplace. You can get a chance to meet their representatives and get a one-on-one via our platform. So if you like that, please head on over to the virtual marketplace. So 1, 2, 3, then the last one is actually a brainstorm with me. We can brainstorm together. And I like to use your brain power and your ideas to see how we can use your influence to make zero-emission mobility happen. So that's the brainstorm. So please sign up. You see the buttons down here. You can sign up. Choose one of the 4 breakouts, and make sure you take part. Together, we will tackle global questions, gain insights, and help make zero-emission mobility a reality.
Hello, revolutionaries, and welcome to the very first Startup Pitch edition at Revolution. If you are here with us, it's because you are a passionate startup builder, you love to see new ideas coming to life, and that's what we are here to do today. We are here to help these startups move maybe into a scale-up phase and become a successful story. So, who am I? My name is Hugo Pereira. I'm Chief Growth Officer at eVBox, a startup builder and passionate scale-up and startup passionate enthusiast, and also here today as a clean tech enthusiast, having joined this company 5 years ago. So today you're going to hear not 1, not 2, but 6 amazing startups having a 90-second pitch, and then you'll have the chance to have an audience vote to select the best startup, but we are also welcomed by a jury that will also give a jury award. And maybe to get started and see who's around with us, let's get to know the jury and then get to know the guidelines and see the startup pitches. So on my left, we have Lisan Tion, Program Manager for Smart Mobility at the City of Amsterdam. So maybe Lisan, you can maybe introduce yourself and to the audience and maybe what makes the startup Amsterdam scene so exciting and dynamic.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm Lisanne. I work for the City of Amsterdam. My passion is innovations in the city. And you see in the city we attract and we would love to retain new talents. And startups are very important for the city because they have new ideas and they help also building the new startup ecosystem in Amsterdam and also help with new innovations in smart mobility.
Thank you. On my right, we have Luc Brands, CEO of the Software Improvement Group, also member of the Supervisory Board of eVBox. Yep. So Luke, why don't you share a bit more about yourself to the audience and maybe what makes startups become a scale-up?
Well, thank you. My name is indeed Luke Bruns, a proud member of the supervisory board. Many years ago I had my own startup that was able to scale up and sell. Becoming an investor and having seen many startups, I think the most important thing is a strong team in combination with a good idea, but especially the ability to continuously look at the outside world to see where you need to move next. I think that's what sets a startup apart from the true scale-ups.
All right. Follow. Thank you for sharing. And with us, of course, also online we have who you already know, Angelica Berger-Sodian, best author of the book In the Year of the Tiger, mobility expert, China expert, and of course EV advocate. So Angelica, maybe the audience already knows you, but maybe share a bit about the inspiration for the book and what is your lever for startups as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really good question. Maybe to start with, what is fascinating me most about startups and scale-ups are people. I mean, I have kind of, worked most of my professional life either in China or for the Chinese in a global context, and I have had loads of opportunities to observe and also to intervene when people kind of, clashed, when they were successful in building startups, when they were successful in building structures. For me, this is still the most interesting and also fascinating aspect, I would almost say, on how to set up global structures, how to build and scale global organizations internationally. This is also what I have focused on in my book. But I mean, as much as I love the startup world, for me, basically the organizational development / people aspect is, personally speaking, still the most fascinating.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And thanks for the jury to be here with us today. I believe that the startups are very enthusiastic about it. So to recap, what will happen in the next couple of minutes? So first off, as an audience, you are going to hear 6 amazing startups from Indonesia to the United States, passing by Germany and the Netherlands, that will have a 90-second pitch. After that, we'll have a small conversation at the end of every startup pitch within the jury, just to discuss a bit about each one of them. And then at the end of the 6 startup pitches, you're going to have the chance to vote for one of them to be the winner. At the same time, our jury is going to, evaluate the startups and also give a jury award. So hopefully 2 out of the 6 startups today, we're going to go home with an amazing set of benefits. Now, what will the startups get? So first off, they're going to have an opportunity to pitch at the Antler program, which is one of the major incubators and accelerators in Europe. And that can give them an entry point to have coaching, acceleration, and maybe if they are selected, up to 100K pre-seed investment. Then they are followed by having 3 coaching sessions with experts on how to get access to investors, how to scale up, and how to build a successful team. And then the other 2 elements of the benefits is that they're going to be promoted at the Revolution, EV Box, and Startup Amsterdam. And finally, they will have an access to the physical booth at the Revolution 2021, which I'm sure you're going to attend as well. So this is the incredible benefits that they will get. But I don't want to delay anymore. We are here to hear about the startups. So let's get started with the first pitch, which will be from Uncharge, e-commerce charging platform bringing together different stakeholders. And let's hear their first pitch right away.
Stay in Europe. What is Encharge? Encharge is a green tech startup that operates a multi-sided platform since January this year. Our focus lies on e-mobility and sustainable mobility concepts. Our mission is that we would like to accelerate the transition to sustainable mobility in Europe by making it more comfortable and more eventful for our users. So we'd like to lower the barriers for sustainable mobility. What particular topic and problem we are working on? Specifically, we would like to accelerate the acceptance and the spread of sustainable mobility. But at present, the breakthrough of electric mobility is still hampered by high prices for public charging and the lack of customer centricity. With our multi-sided platform, we are exactly working on these issues. Through our very first service, the bonus program, our users collect bonus points with every purchase they made on the platform with our platform partners. These bonus points can then be easily redeemed for free public charging with the electric vehicle or free car sharing or other sustainability concepts. The business model works, and our service has already been inspiring more than 8,000 early adopters and innovators in Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Austria.
All right, this was the first bit of Uncharge. Maybe to get started, Lizen, what were your thoughts on the pitch, on the concept of collecting points? Do you think this is a viable business model, and do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, the first thing what I see was the logo. I thought, wow, that's a very lovely logo with the heart, of course, and also with the Uncharge. It really felt something like it's with the bonus points. It's something like that's very common, I think, also for people that go to the grocery. Then it's good to also make the connection with this new kinds of thing with electricity. So I think it's very interesting. And the question is also, what is the relevance also for cities like us? How can it help us with our problems and solutions if you look at the zero emissions challenges?
All right, now sounds a very good input. Maybe for the other part of the jury, do you have any additional comments? Are you, as EV drivers, would you see yourselves collecting points for redeeming?
Potentially. I'm not a point collector in grocery stores, but I can see this as a business model. Obviously, this works really well in other industries, so there's no reason why it wouldn't work here. And I think there's also some initial proof that it is working for them. So it's definitely a very interesting concept, I would say.
All right, and for the audience, of course, do not forget to take notes of what are the things that excite you on each of the pitches, as you have to vote at the end. So, having said this, let's go on to the second pitch, which is from Aikite, which is a tech startup within water, and also water tech. So let's see what that brings us in terms of sustainability progress.
Have you ever noticed where your materials for your batteries and eMobility batteries came from? Have you ever seen mining and clean water sources are combined in one place? Here we are in Bangka, Indonesia, where mining industries contaminated our source of clean water. Hi, my name is Nuhan Faresi, a founder and CEO at Aikite Startup, and a young environmentalist from Indonesia, and a movie character at Inventing Tomorrow movie for Sundance Film Festival in 2018 in the US. Bangkanese people witnessed how the mining industries have caused many environmental damages, especially to the local water resources. Tin ore washing wastewater contains heavy metal ions, which are toxic and unhealthy for Bangkanese. As there are no cheap water resources, except from the tin mining pit, people still use this tin pit water as clean water for their daily activities, including shower, dishes, and clothes washing. Some of the tin pit resources are used for drinking or cooking, but many people don't, as they are afraid of the high grade of pollutants and heavy metal ions. A research states that Bangka Belitung suffers from the highest population rate of tooth decay in Indonesia due to the polluted water from the tin mining industry. And here, Aikite solves the problem. Our mission is to offer an affordable solutions for those whose water are affected by the tin mining industries and create a good mining practice environment for the industries. Our actions at Aikite are clean water, community education, and better health. At Aikite, we convert heavy metal contaminated water to be clean water in an affordable way through Banks & Water filter, which is 10 times cheaper than existing product in the market. If you are interested to support us with technical, strategic partners, or scale your business and also make a social impact here, please feel free to connect with me.
All right, thank you, Aikite. Maybe Luke, what are your thoughts? This is not a traditional mobility startup, of course, but it's a very hot topic within sustainability.
It definitely is. And when you look at startups, they come in many different flavors, and everybody has their own purpose. Some may have the purpose to become very wealthy. Others have the purpose to make a difference. Everybody's looking for that. What is the impact that I make with my startup? And this is a clear example where that impact is really environmental, globally relevant, and I think that's a strong part of it. So definitely it's related to the EV industry, because there is obviously also a dark side to the battery mining part, and this is also trying to resolve those issues, and I think that's a strong proposition to aim for.
All right, thank you. We're going to keep going so that we can keep the pace, and the next one is going to be Charsim, which is a startup out of the Netherlands, which is a fleet charging simulator. So let's see how that is going to turn out.
Charge sim. EVs are changing the world for the better, but they need charging and they need utility capacity, and lots of it. The question comes up, how much? How much utility capacity do you need? how many chargers do you really need for a fleet or for a parking lot? As you go from a single vehicle with just one charger to having a fleet installation with hundreds of vehicles, you don't necessarily need a charger for every vehicle. And you probably don't need utility capacity to charge them all simultaneously. But figuring out how much is difficult, and that's where ChargeSim comes in. ChargeSim is a software as a service modeling and optimization tool to help you figure out the charging infrastructure that's right for your fleet. It translates your schedule into the power profiles that you need to work with your utility. It lets you explore smart charging strategies and multiple output chargers, which can dramatically cut the installation costs and the operating costs of running a charging base. ChargeSim is used today by transit agencies around the world to help figure out the charging infrastructure for their electric bus fleets. As the world becomes 100% electric, simulating and modeling the right charging infrastructure is going to become increasingly critical to avoid costly over-installation. Vote for ChargeSim and help lower the costs of fleet electrification. ChargeSim, design your charging.
All right, ChargeSim, thank you so much, and a clear call to action from the founder. And look, this seems kind of like you have been already in the simulation business before.
When I saw this pitch, I was really smiling because many years ago, in a different century even, I founded a company which was also doing simulation software. And one of the things that we didn't do well, and they seem to be doing very well, is focus on a particular solution. So not trying to sell complex simulation, but solving a problem, which is a clear problem. And I congratulate them with finding that issue and building a solution around it. I think that's a very clever way of using very powerful technology in making the world a better place.
Yeah. I don't know if Lizzie and Angelique, you have any other thoughts on ChargeSim?
Well, I would totally agree with Luc because, I mean, having seen, loads of startups out there, for me, kind of, what turns out to be one of the most important, also kind of, success factors is there a real need? Is there a real problem that startups are trying to solve? And are they really kind of, putting forward clear solutions? And this is what seems to be the case with this particular startup. So I'm quite impressed, I have to say.
All right, thanks. With that, we go to our fourth startup. It's going to be Elektrisch Varen, also from the Netherlands, which is also a clean sailing startup. So let's see what we're going to hear about them.
Hello, my name is Pablo. I would like to introduce you to the idea of an infrastructure, one of battery charge and swap stations for electric boats. With such infrastructure, we could achieve clean boating within a few years. In Amsterdam, only about 5% of the 10,000 pleasure boats have electric motors, just because they don't have access to the grid. Therefore, I want to provide portable batteries for all boats, batteries that can be exchanged on the water side. So I developed prototypes for a battery, a docking station where the battery can be clicked on, and a charge and swap station where the battery can be recharged. The system is approved and it is very simple. It is adaptable and scalable. A pilot must be started, and I think that Amsterdam is the best place to do this. For this pilot, we would have to invest about 1 million euros. A network of organizations is already supporting me. Now I am reaching out for a commercial stakeholder and operator to take over. We can start up a production line for 12 battery charge and swap stations, for about 1,000 battery packs and for 10,000 docking stations. And we would develop a tool for registration of network members. In 2025, the center of Amsterdam should be emission-free. The time is now to invest. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Elektrisch Varen. Liesen, what are your thoughts on this? Amsterdam canals and electric boats go hand in hand together, but how do you see the proposition from their side?
Yeah, I think this is really in line with the ambition to have a zero-emission city in 2025, and we see also the boats that most of them are not already electric. And I think it's very interesting to use the batteries. And the question for me is also how can this also be affordable, but also usable for different kinds of boats, and how can they be all integrated in different kinds of boats that are now in the canals?
No, definitely. And as someone that spends a lot of time on the Amsterdam canals on a boat, this is definitely something that will be interesting for me to evolve from. We only have 2 startups to go, so let's go into the 5th one, Sway-Mobility from the United States, which is car sharing as a service, which is something very popular today, upcoming, so let's hear their story.
Hello, I'm Michael Peters, CEO of Sway-Mobility. At Sway, we're accelerating the adoption of EVs, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and providing accessibility to new mobility options through our car share as a service platform. From multifamily apartments and flats to corporate campuses, we collaborate with clients to design and implement car share networks for their residents, tenants, and co-workers. We also support cities and NGOs as they pilot new mobility solutions, such as mobility hubs and workforce accessibility. Providing car share increases leasing activity and tenant retention at a property, reduces parking demand while improving workplace satisfaction for companies, and allows NGOs to quickly meet their program goals. It's easy. We install EV charging infrastructure, deliver the vehicles, arrange for the insurance, provide the software and operations, and get programs up and running quickly. This subscription service provides clients flexibility while helping them meet their ESG and sustainability goals. Sway's roadmap includes several InsurTech innovations to reduce risk and costs, improve functionality through OEM collaborations, and more customization for clients. We look forward to discussing industry partnerships, strategic investment, and growth opportunities with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sway-Mobility. Car sharing, a very hot topic. Angelica, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, as you said before, I mean, car sharing as a service is clearly kind of, up and coming. So this is definitely kind of, the right direction to go. I think the proposition as such is interesting. What I would have loved is to hear a little bit more about the setup, the team, who is involved, because I think kind of, Michael Peters did a really interesting kind of presentation. But again, especially with my background, I'm always interested to hear a bit about how is the operating model going, kind of who are the people involved and how does that go. But from a pitch and proposition point of view, I think it was super interesting and cool.
Mm-hmm. Maybe picking up on the Amsterdam city, because there's a lot of car sharing services already available. What do you see that would be differentiator on a car sharing service to market?
You see also the need in Amsterdam that the integration with also with the bikes, with the e-scooters is very interesting. There's not only the focus on cars, but also what you see is also the different types of cars, of smaller cars, bigger cars, and also not owning a car. So the question is is car service the only thing, or can it be more multimodal?
Yeah, no, great point. Having said this, let's go into the last startup of the day, which is Tyler, a startup from the Netherlands, which is tile charging for e-bikes. So a great way to close the 6 pitches.
The use of light electric transport among corporations is growing exponentially. To give you some examples, guests in hotels all want to make their city or nature trip using an e-bike. Home care nurses do their client visits more efficiently using electric transport. Corporations sharing services are popping up for employees to make quick work trips. At Tyler, our mission is to enable this growth that results in less cars, more e-bikes, healthier environment, and ultimately a healthier society. For these corporate fleets, there's one problem: charging.
We looked at charging convenience, safety and aesthetics, and how we can create a product that fits different users' experiences.
The solution is Tyler One. Together with our fantastic team and the Delft Technical University, we created a patented charging tile that charges an e-bike through the kickstand wirelessly.
It provides you with a seamless park, charge and go experience without the use of cables or need to remove the battery.
Intelligent, using store data and features such as a fire hazard shutdown protection.
Be part of the sustainable growth of light electric vehicle by offering Tyler's charging solution on site.
All right, thank you, Tyler. Well, e-bikes, definitely a new world, at least for me. On last Friday, I got my first e-bike. broke it by Saturday, so I'm now again repairing it. So, but I do hope to have the full experience, especially in a city like Amsterdam, that e-bikes are so popular. Maybe Lizen, how do you see this proposition for a city like Amsterdam or other ones that are adopting e-bikes rapidly?
Yeah, you see an extremely increase of the e-bikes, and I see it's also very interesting for Amsterdam and other cities to use more e-bikes, and also the question, how are we going to charge them? I think Tyler has a good proposition and idea also with the team and all the enthusiasm and also working with the students. So I think a really good startup. The question for me is also, how does this fit in the public space, because it's pretty scarce at this moment, and there's not enough space now for loading stations. So my question also, how does this fit in the public space like cities as Amsterdam, but also other cities? And also the last question is, bijvoorbeeld your bike, what you bought last Friday, is that also fits in the solution of Tyler? Because there are also a lot of bikes that have swap batteries, and that I couldn't really get from the movie.
All right. Maybe Angelica or Luke, do you have any additional points? Maybe how bike sharing is, for example, in China, and do you see this application going beyond?
Well, personally, I have also only recently started to be a big fan of micromobility. I'm also sitting on the advisory board of a micromobility startup. So I think there will be huge opportunities in future, especially also kind of globally. I mean, not only in Europe, but in the US, possibly also in China. But yeah, I mean, I think this is, I mean, as we also discussed before, the question will be, how will they all fit together? Because for me, it's not so much about kind of, loads of individual propositions. At the end of the day, it will be how to have one harmonious concept on how to integrate all these different propositions in order to build smart cities.
All right, great. With that, we go to the exciting part for the audience and also for the jury. For the jury, they'll have to take some time to decide on which startup will get the jury award. And the audience has now the chance to do the exciting voting. So think about the idea, the product and service, the business model, the team behind, probably even explore a bit of their websites. But you do have now the chance to vote. And I have here the live voting in place, so I'll be able to know quickly who's the winner from the audience point of view. And the jury will reconvene in a few minutes with also their decision on who is going to be the startup from their side. So exciting times ahead. So let's get the vote started and see where it leads us. welcome everyone again. The vote has been casted by the audience, a jury has made their decision, and now it's the exciting time to reveal the winners. So let's start with the audience award and who you voted most for. So let's get some drum rolls here for the excitement part. So the winner for the audience award will be, and we're waiting for the one. There we go. The winner is Aikite. Let's. Well done. A bit too soon. Well done, Aikite. So I believe that we do have the founder and the CEO welcome with us on the call. So maybe if Aikite is on the call, can say hi and share a bit of their thoughts on their mission and what they hope to accomplish with these next steps. So let's hope that Aikite joins us soon. And maybe as they join, in the meanwhile, maybe the jury has some thoughts on a word from the audience. Was it well given?
Well, I think it's very well given, especially the purpose, like we discussed in our quick round. The purpose is really great, and it really stood out.
He's there.
Yeah. All right. All right. Good. Welcome, Aikite.
Oh, hi.
Hello. Maybe you can present yourself and what are you a bit more about your ambition and what you hope to bring with this.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Ajwat, a Profit Center Manager at Aikite. I'm here representing the CEO.
All right.
Nuhan Fadasi would like to say thank you for all of you, the audience who has came to hear our pitching session in this afternoon. We are looking forward and cooperating and having connection with you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Aikite, and best of luck with the next steps and scaling up the amazing business you have. Thank you. All right. And with that, maybe before we go to the next announcement, you are finishing your thoughts, Luke. Maybe you can still finish. All good? All right. So then with this, should we then disclose the jury award? And maybe I'll wait for the bumper to come for another drum roll for who's going to be the audience, the jury award. So drum rolls for the next winner. So let's get the bumper for the audience. There we go. The winner is Charsim. There you go.
You're so fast.
The timing is not yet there, but we are still good with it. Charsim, congratulations. And I also believe that we do have them on the call. Charsim, hey, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Maybe you can share a bit more about your thoughts on your next steps, where you hope to bring Charsim to the next level, and maybe hear a bit more about yourselves.
So we're excited to grow ChargeSim in the applications. So right now we've been focusing on the transit industry, but trucking and eventually other areas in the EV space are going to become really big. And if we can cut the cost of electrification, cut the cost of charging infrastructure, that'll make the entire transition to electrification faster and cheaper and more efficient for everyone. So we're thrilled to be a part of that, and looking to grow with staff, with investment, this type of thing too, and customers, of course, to make that happen.
Yeah, exciting. And since it was a jury award, maybe the jury wants to give one or two comments on it. Maybe Luke, as you were fond of.
Yeah, it's a very nice proposition. As I said before, I've been in this industry many years ago. What I really would advise you to look into is to build a business model that doesn't stay with just one solution, so people know, oh, that's what I need, and then they move on. But you build something that they will need to continuously update and build features into your solutions that you will add value to them also a year from now, 2 years from now, because that will greatly help you grow the company. But there's a lot to it. I congratulate you with the stuff that you're doing.
Great, thank you.
All right, congratulations, Charsim, and looking forward to see your next steps. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and with this, we come to the end of the Startup Pitch competition, the first ever that we hosted at Revolution. Maybe as a closing takeaway from the jury on all the pitches and the startup, for me was really to see the diversity of the startups and the mission that exists around improving mobility and sustainability, which was quite fascinating to see so many ideas around the world. Maybe for the rest of the colleagues, one final takeaway before we close the session. Lisa?
Yeah, I love the purpose and also the ambition to see in all the startups and the pitches.
All right. Look.
It's great to see people trying to grow the company and trying to do good things for the world, and especially in this industry where so much is happening. It's great to see.
All right. And Angelica?
Yes, I'm here. Loads of interesting pictures, loads of interesting presentations. What I always love is to see also the positive energy and to feel how much is going on, and also kind of, to observe and hopefully also be able to help and support. But super well done. Congratulations to all.
All right, congratulations to all, and let's continue with the revolution. I think there's a happy hour now and a couple of different activities happening, so stay tuned, and thanks for being here. Great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, welcome back. Roger, are you there? Yeah.
I'm here. Hello.
Hello. Good to see you. You're still dressed sharp dressed man. It's like a little bit.
Hang on. Sorry, I forgot to put my hard hat on. We have to wear it at all times now here in England.
Oh man, there's English. But you still look like James Bond. And Angelica, I thought I already saw you getting ready for the virtual drinks, but that will be in a minute. Now, just to talk about it, normally we would see each other in person, but things are changing. We have to improvise. But what is your take on today, Roger? What do you think?
Can I just say that we don't see you at all at the moment? I'm not sure whether this is the idea or whether this is not the idea, but we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, but Angelica, I'm used to this. I'm always hearing voices in my head, so it just seems normal to me. Well, to answer your question, Dave, I think what a lot of the people talking and questions we've had asked are about overcoming challenge. They're about not being frightened of making mistakes. And they're about understanding that you work with other people, you work in a team. You will always and only do your best work when you work with other people. And I think much of what we've heard today is about that principle, that nobody wanted this situation with a global pandemic, let's be honest, who would? But what you see now is amazing teamwork, innovation, people focusing more on electric vehicles, clean air technologies, because they've seen around them what the world can look like. So that's my answer to your question.
Mm-hmm. The funny thing is, Roger, we talked it over before. Yesterday we talked about it, that although you're sitting alone, or maybe your husband or your wife is at home sitting, waiting, or the dog or whatever, but more or less you feel a little bit maybe alone, but it's actually not true, because all around the world, we counted this morning, 62 countries logged in, 62 countries. So it is strange because we are actually sitting alone, but we aren't alone. And I don't know how you experience, oh, what are you showing now?
Where everybody's from.
Oh, yes, the world. Great. Well, Angelica, what's your take on that? Because you've been in a lot of calls, a lot of Zoom conferences and things like that. How do you feel about this?
Well, I would like to build on what Roger has just said. I mean, in addition to that, we are all kind of in it. What I also find really fascinating is the dynamic of our industry. Because, I mean, we are all confronted with all the challenges that COVID has brought along. But, I mean, our industry is not at a standstill at all. Mm-hmm. Not at all. So much is going on. There is so much positive energy. There are so many people who want to kind of, continue to transform the industry, who want to kind of, change our planet into an even more beautiful and even more healthy planet than before. So I find that hugely fascinating. And I find it really nice to see also today, there have been so many kind of, excited people coming along with their ideas, with their kind of, contributions and opinions. just fascinating.
Yes. Now, Roger, you've been around quite a long time within the EV world. You know,
I've just been around a long time everywhere.
I'm not sure whether that was particularly charming, Dave.
Yeah, charming. That's called being ageist.
Yes, you've been there ages. But, you know, are we on the threshold to actually a new next phase for the EV community?
Yes, I think we are, definitely. I think this month, September, has got some amazing things in it. There's a wonderful group of people in Oxford, led by a guy called Aid Thomas, who's put together an event tomorrow called EV World Day. What an amazing thing to do. That's got a lot of support. You've got Tesla's Battery Day on the 22nd coming up. I'm positive there's going to be a really big news story out of that. You saw Elon Musk with Herbert Diess, you know, the old guard and the new guard, if you like, talking together. There's definitely something going on there for sure. And I think governments with, you know, the green, you know, the green plan, the green development, I can't remember what it's called now, the big thing in Europe that's green, that thing, you know, people are now revisiting what we need to do better. They're prepared to spend the money for it. And I think you're seeing numbers of EV adoptions in many countries, not America, by the way, but here in Europe especially, going up and up and up. So I feel very optimistic, but we must all keep working very, very hard because there is a long way to go yet, but the signs look good, I would say.
Okay. And Angelica, because you actually, well, you're not going to tell what you're going to do in the UK, but you're going to move to the UK. It has something to do with the EV mobility world, something with a zero-emission future?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm
Tesla, Angelica.
No. You know, I am famous for kind of, you know, starting and scaling startups in the international startup world. And I think this is also something that I will want to continue to do in future. This is all I can say.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll figure out. Well, we are here actually in the stunning new headquarters of EVBox, the new headquarters here in Amsterdam. And I would like on stage the CEO of EVBox, Christophe Vereenhoven. Please, Christophe, move over up here. Now, I have to be careful because we have to keep a distance. There we are. Yes. Hey, good afternoon. Well, great you are here. Thank you very much for actually hosting Revolution 2020. And what is your first impression of this virtual online event instead of being there live?
Well, of course, we missed the live event. All of us miss it. But I mean, we are super happy with how we have pulled this together. Thanks a lot for Angelica, you, Roger, all the teams, everybody that came over to make it happen. It's a fantastic event. I think we can be proud of it as an industry. We organize it for the industry, for everybody together. And it's like we just said, I mean, it's a positive way moving forward and make it happen.
Yeah, well, the good thing is that we actually reach out for 62 countries, but in general, these are challenging times. Now, Christophe, can you tell me how this particular time, has impacted EVBox in general?
Well, it has impacted our business as well, the industry in general. We saw slower demand in sales. I mean, we all know that car volumes have dropped. For us in hardware engineering and especially in testing, it wasn't easy. It's not something you can do from home. So that had a certain impact. And later on, for sure, certifications to get new products approved, where you're depending on third parties to get a time slot to get your testing and certifications done. And then in a certain moment during the lockdown, I mean, transport within certain countries was also on hold to certain distribution centers. So it has impacted our business. But I mean, you always have to look on the bright side and the positive side. So we looked internally how we could become a better organization. First of all, of course, we focused on the safety of our team and making sure that everybody could work from home overnight in the cloud, fully digitalized. Secondly, focus on our customers and the needs of our customers. And then also we look back how we could spend more innovation and become better out of this crisis to serve this industry better and to also become a better partner for the industry. And so overall, I mean, we are hurt, but I mean, we're still growing a nice double-digit number this year in a COVID-19 year, which is not a bad result. There are other industries and companies that are suffering more. So all by all, we are happy.
Yeah, you're happy. Okay, now, what is actually your personal biggest learning? I mean, you've been working out of home with the family often, I reckon. What is the biggest takeout on a positive side for you in your personal life?
Well, that the most important thing is actually culture and the team. I'm super proud and happy to be a coach of a fantastic team of EV boxers and EV runners. Today we are over 600 people, 60 nationalities. Today 1/3 of the team is female and we want to push this gender more forward. 1/3 of the team is in R&D. And it's all about values. And I mean, I do this job with passion. I love to see people grow, and as a human being, but also as a professional, to become better. And together as a team, we have come out stronger out of this crisis. And so in business, people do business with people, and it's all about the people and the values. And I think those values are setting us apart. And that's how we get the trust from our customers and partners of doing business. And that combination with the team together, that's the most valuable asset you can ever have.
Yeah, the funny thing is, Roger, you mentioned team is actually a word, but it's also stands for together each achieves more. Is that right?
Yeah. Together everyone or each achieves more. That's right. And I'd like to say a couple of quick things. That's clearly evident in what Christoph has just gone through. And I would definitely like to just give full respect to Christoph. He has been an exemplar business leader. He has been confident and strong, I'm sure, behind the scenes. He's had personal moments where he's felt very worried about the future, that concern for his staff and all of those things, but you never see that. You do see the human side for sure, but he is strident, he's confident and strong. And I think all the people in his company, EVBox, should be very proud of their leader. I think they've done a great job. And Dave, as you have, in fact, Dave, you've done too good a job. I'm a bit disappointed. I was hoping you might be a bit
screw up.
Been really good at this. You've been really good, Dave. So
bye, Roger. Bye, Roger.
Bye, Roger. Bye, bye. You're leaving the Brexit. Bye-bye. No, but I do miss you. I do miss you. I do miss you.
Fierce competition.
Yeah.
Fierce competition.
Now, on a serious note, because we were talking about the next stage of this industry, I would like to ask Christoph, because you have been familiar with companies that first were little players and grew into major players in the industry. What do you believe that are the key factors to actually trigger mass market adoption?
Well, I think the industry is looking for a bright future. I mean, and although, I mean, if you look at the data coming from analysts like Navigant and Bloomberg New Energy, post-COVID-19 adjustments, it's still expected to have 6 million EVs sold in 2023. So on a total by that time, 25 million EVs. If you look on a longer term, between 2020 and 2030, the expectation for growth on EV car sales is 32%. And if you calculate that to EV charging stations, both AC and DC, it's over 43% year-over-year growth in the next 10 years. So we are an industry that's going to grow. Of course, it will have an impact. I mean, because investments are becoming bigger, there will be certain consolidation going on. But also, if you look at the cars, the cost parity between EVs and IC cars is getting closer. There's a lot of new models coming to the industry, to the market, also at all price ranges. But also in our industry, I mean, with Charge Up Europe, we have created that alliance on policy. We are pushing for open standards and roaming. And also in general, Europe will actually, remember, Roger, the word Green Deal. Huh? That was the one you were looking for. So the Green Deal is actually going to push this industry in Europe forward in a positive way. And so we're looking forward to actually grow this industry. And I think it's time that the industry is getting together and take action.
Yes. If you look, also a question to Angelica, are we already, well, we are very close, or are we already behind or after the tipping point? What do you think? The tipping point of actually making the transition happen quite quickly?
Good question. I would say we are at the tipping point.
Yes.
I wouldn't say we are behind. I wouldn't say we are ahead. I think we are at a very, very interesting moment of time at the moment. I think loads of things are happening at the moment. This is, as both Roger and Christoph said, this is the time also to take action and to kind of, continue But I think I'm very positive. I think we will have a bright future ahead.
And Roger, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it is. I think, as I said, that moment this week where you saw Herbert Diess with Elon Musk, that was quite a moment in many ways. Very symbolic moment, I think, of showing the innovator talking to the disruptor, if you like, talking to the incumbent. And I think it's absolutely to Herbert Diess's credit and Mr. Musk that this is happening. So I think the collaboration between companies is going to happen quickly, but this is all going to be driven really from the bottom up. It's the consumer. It's people wanting, cleaner cities, lots of things. I think we're getting pushed away from lobbyists and the political side, even the political side. I think children are lobbying their parents and grandparents, people that run, Shell. So Ben van Beurden, the head of Shell, has got 3 daughters. You can be assured they give him grief all the time about what is Shell doing. Yes. And I don't want to pick on Shell, but all of these companies, whether they're the oil companies or the car companies, they are now picking up a pace. They need to pick it up faster. But that that stuff is happening. So, but to answer your question about tipping point, I would say 100% yes for commercial vehicle fleets, taxis, buses, and vans. Definitely happening now, and scooters and bikes and etc. I think cars. I've always had a belief. Forgive me for spoiling the party, but that we won't see mass adoption, possibly of electric cars, because we'll see this dawn of connected, autonomous, shared and electric. Okay. And I'm not saying people won't buy cars, but I don't think they're going to be buying them the big numbers that they've been buying combustion engine cars. But anyway, look, that's just a personal opinion. I don't want to shove that down people's throats, Dave.
All right, thank you very much. Well, Roger, the funny thing is, out of the brainstorm came an important thing, and that was the suggestion that we educate our kids and tell them what is all possible and what is the good thing about EV mobility or zero-emission mobility. And today, I don't know, you probably read it, your British colleague, Lewis Hamilton, he's actually starting his own racing team. So that are signs. You read it? You read about it?
Yeah. Sorry, very quick. I read his statement. So it's Extreme E. So this is the global branch of Formula E. And it's what he's saying that's fascinating. He is very influential. He's an incredible racing driver, and he's now using his position and status in exactly the right way that a celebrity should to make things happen. I think you're right. It's great to point that out, Dave. Damn, I wish I had. That's a really big news story today. It's very symbolic. So, Dave, well done again.
All right, enough. Now, you know that Christophe is always full of surprises. So, my last question to Christophe is, what can we expect in the near future concerning e-Box and, of course, concerning Revolution?
Well, it's true. I really love surprises, and we have something at it here at the company. But so on Revolution side and both EVBox side, I would say stay tuned for December. We're gonna come up with news, some big news. Revolution. I mean, maybe the next revolutions. We shouldn't always do it here. I mean, we could do it in another part of Europe. We could do it somewhere in Americas to be seen. And also as a company, we're working on some stuff. But I think in the broader scope, I think there's a couple of things that are important. I mean, we should, first of all, think how we can give back. And secondly, how we can actually build for better. And if you look at giving back, I think it's time that we, as an organization, as an industry, we look how we can give back to society. We as a company, we want to lead by example and contribute for sure. But I also would welcome at that time to other competitors, associations, players in the industry. As an industry, I think we have to organize ourselves and do something back to society. Then if you look to the industry in general, I mean, build for better. If you look to the charging solutions of the last 10 years, about I think the new generation of solutions that is going to come out in general, hardware, software, is going to be day and night to what we have seen in the last 10 years. And that's going to have a big impact in the industry. It's going to move this industry even forward faster. And it's going to help to create bigger adoption in all segments of our industry. So stay positive and looking forward to a great December all together.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Christophe. So we will be back December 8th, but now before we leave, yes, great. We have some drinks. These are real. I hope you have drinks too there, Roger and Angelica. And yeah, cheers. Well, we invite you all to come actually and join us in the virtual drink room. There were some nice activities. You can meet other people there, so please go there and see you there. And I would like to cheers you, Christophe. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Roger, Angelica. And we see each other back at December 8th, 2020.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Champions.